The year is 1985. Now, the 80s were all about feel-good movies. You know, with The Breakfast Club, I did a video on that by the way, Stand By Me, The Karate Kid, E.T., Back to the Future, Big, Gremlins, the list goes on. The 80s could not stop producing instant classics. I love this era of movies. This isn't the first movie that I've done in this era, and it won't be the last. Today we will talk about a story written by Steven Spielberg, a screenplay by Christopher Columbus, and a movie directed by Richard Donner. I give to you The Goonies. We got Sean Astin, Josh Brolin, and Corey Feldman. There's not a single person in this movie that doesn't smash their role. Not a single one. There is some truly magical storytelling going on here with a perfect soundtrack, wonderfully energetic presence, and a warm, cozy vibe throughout. Although the cover is a bit creepy. I mean, why do they look like that? Let's take a look at the movie. We start the movie off in such a perfect way, introducing every main character individually, showing you exactly what to expect from them throughout. And this is something that is so important to the movie. These unique characters are all different in their own way, and we get to see them come together one by one to form the main group of the Goonies, starting with the antagonists, the Fratellis. As mentioned in my Flushed Away video, which you can also watch at the top of the screen now, henchmen are nearly always useless. And that stays true here. At least I can get on board with the squabbling side of these characters, as they are a family, which will of course make it harder to keep up a professional manner in an important environment. This makes that dumb henchman gimmick more plausible, so that's already a great start to this introduction of the movie. The Fratellis are in the middle of a police chase. This is because Mama and Francis are helping Jake escape from prison. This guy literally knocked out one guard and then he just walks out the front door. Wow, that's great security, guys. I really feel safe in this town. In the midst of all this, we see Data and his pure determination to create a useful invention that initially may seem helpful, but it seems to always come back to bite him. Now, this guy, Ke Huy Quan, he's awesome in this movie, and funnily enough, he actually won recently an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor in Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I am yet to see, but I'm sure it'll be great. I can't imagine there's many child actors that go on to actually win an Oscar as an adult. We then have Andy, who is clearly very joyful and friendly to everyone, so it makes sense that she would be a cheerleader, as she often continues that role in the group. There's Mouth. You don't really need much brain power to figure out why he's got that nickname.
You know, I got some naked pictures of your mom.
Chunk is the comic relief of the movie. The amount of fat jokes in this movie is actually impressive. They do get a bit old, but you know, this is clearly hilarious in the 80s, and they could get away with that kind of stuff a lot more. This kid is great throughout the movie though, and I really hope this kid didn't get any trauma from being bullied this whole movie. There's also Steph, and there's not too much to go by from her, just pulling a crab out of a big tub. But to be honest, that kind of sums up her character in this movie. I mean, she's kind of forgettable. Then we have Mikey and Brandon Walsh. Brandon being the bigger brother that is literally obsessed with working out. Just doesn't stop working out, man. To be fair, he has a lot of muscles to build because he eventually turns into Thanos. Go, 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 go. He jokes around with Mikey and puts him in his place as the younger brother, but it's clear to see their bonding and the awful situation of their home being foreclosed. A developer wants to buy out all the properties of these kids and their families to make a golf course in this area named the Goondocks, which is a play on the word boondocks, which refers to a rural or rough isolated area. It being named the Goondocks in this day and age is hilarious if you know what the word goon means. If you don't, just don't worry about it, okay? I envy your innocence. But anyway, them living in an area called the Goondocks is hence why they get the name the Goonies. Mikey has a sole focus on his house being foreclosed. He's very clearly badly affected by this event, seemingly more than anyone else. And of course, him being so young, he sees the situation in a different light to the older people in the movie. He has a very strong sense of imagination, and he believes there's a way around this mess. His friends of his age range are at first more skeptical, but soon they do come around to Mikey and his idea, which we will get round to soon. Something I genuinely love about this movie is that there's barely any time cuts throughout the whole thing. As soon as the movie starts, time doesn't jump ahead. We go from scene to scene, generally with the characters walking us through into the next room or building. By doing this, it makes the audience feel like they're really right there with the Goonies on the adventure. Every discovery is genuine because you saw how it started, how they got to this location, what they find, and then how that finding leads to the next step in the journey. Sure, it's early evening when they actually go down into the caves, and then it's morning by the time they come out, but does it ever really feel like we missed any part of the story progressing? I don't believe so. The group are slowly coming together at Mikey's house. Mouth, for some reason, wants Chunk to shake his titties for him. Data enters in a typical fashion, and we start to see the continuation of all these characters' main gimmicks and behaviours. Like as I mentioned with Data's crazy inventions, Mouth's cheeky comments, and Chunk's clumsy nature. I like small details that show slight signs of a character's headspace. Like for example, Mikey and Brandon's mother is clearly stressed from the situation, hence accidentally calling Brandon Mikey here. Mouth really shows a few psychotic signs here with his translation to the foreign maid Mrs. Walsh appointed.
Si no hace buen trabajo. Será ensalada, aquí caen las cucarachas por 2 semanas sin agua y sin comida.
Okay, Rosie?
Why, when Mikey and Brandon are so aware of what Chunk is like, would they let him be the one to glue the penis back onto the statue that he broke? Good on Data for correcting Mrs. Walsh on the awful pronunciation of the word data.
And you, Data.
Data? Mouth asks what Mikey's dad is going to do with all the stuff in the attic. It's said that Mikey's dad is a museum curator, so he's bound to have some interesting stuff up there. Mikey is clearly very sentimental, as he is constantly in this scene telling everyone to be careful with everything they're touching. He didn't even want anyone to go up in the attic in the first place. He clearly understands how historically important all of these things are. Mikey being this way perfectly sets up the next part of the scene, where they discover a map of their coastline. There's Spanish on the map, which luckily Mouth can translate. Now normally I would think, oh, what a coincidence, and I still do think that a little bit, but they don't just use Mouth Spanish in this one scene to help the story progress. They do actually do it in other parts of the movie. I do like this a lot, as other movies just would make a character be able to do something just for one specific use and in one scene, which is just lazy character design and storytelling. The Spanish on the treasure map translates to a warning. This treasure was stolen by an old pirate named One-Eyed Willie. It's said that his ship got into a war with the British Armada. Willie tried to escape in a cave, but the walls got blown up all around him, and the treasure or Willie have never been found. Just like some fat guys who have never found their Willie. He set loads of booby traps around the cave so no one could ever get in and take his treasure. He even ended up killing his own men because he was so protective of his treasure. They find a news article about a guy named Chester Copperpot who claimed he has the key to One-Eyed Willie. Mikey is now obsessed with this story of One-Eyed Willie and the possible treasure, even if Data seems to be the only one that's actually slightly on board with him. The developers give Brandon some paperwork for Mr. Walsh to sign for the foreclosure tomorrow.
And never get their balls out.
We get a very heartwarming moment of Brandon and Mikey hugging, expressing their love for each other deep down, even when they may not always show it. The dynamic between the brothers is also great, because between them, we see Mikey's childlike wonder and imagination on display and less understanding of the situation, compared to Brandon, who is now on the cusp of adulthood. His ideas of the world have drastically changed, and he is far more internally angry on the situation. He understands the situation better than Mikey and the realistic likelihood of moving home. He's already given up and is pessimistic for a large part of the movie, and that's what adulthood does. It kills your dreams and imagination. Be more like Mikey. Definitely not like Chunk.
Oh God, am I depressed?
Somehow the other boys knew exactly what Mikey meant when he did this. The boys are also now just right on board with following Mikey, even when at first they thought the story was a bit far-fetched. This douche psycho named Troy literally tries to kill Brandon. This is after Steph finds it hilarious that he's trying to perv on her friend and look up her skirt when she's clearly uncomfortable with it. Hilarious, right? Meanwhile, Mikey and the other boys are following the clues on the map they found. This leads them to the hideout where the Fratellis have escaped to. This lady is just referred to as Mama. She does a good job of scaring the boys into a good lesson of not trespassing.
Thank you, sir, ma'am. Ma'am.
Mikey lies about needing to go to the bathroom so he can try and find more clues to One-Eyed Willie. In doing so, he finds Bevo.
Let's get right into that, look that, bang.
Or Sloth. Some kind of mutant thing chained up to the walls. Brandon finally caught up with the boys and they all get ushered out of the building. The Fratellis leave with clearly a dead body in the car. Mikey encourages the others to dig deeper into this mystery as they now have nothing to lose. Andy and Steph somehow located them all, and now we officially have the Goonies all together to begin their journey.
You know, tilting the mirror so he could look down my shirt, so I elbowed his lip.
You elbowed his lip?
You elbowed his lip? Thanos is trying to fuck. Andy encourages Thanos to let the boys investigate for a few minutes. There's quite the consensus online that it's quite annoying how so often Mouth, Mikey, Chunk and Data are all yapping at the same time, and yeah, I do get it. It happens a lot. I mean, I guess an argument for it could be the fact that they're so nervous and excited and their brains are all flowing with different ideas and opinions. The film shows the chaos of a big group of kids, all with big personalities. There's something going on with the characters in the background of every scene, but the constant overlapping dialogue can get a bit annoying the more it happens throughout the film. I mean, seriously, if everyone was talking all at once, it would get a bit annoying. The overlap really does say you would kind of need it. Can't so we get one of the most classic cliche lines ever.
I don't got it.
He's right behind me, isn't he?
All over it, but I'm getting out of here.
Chunk, of course, smells ice cream through a freezer door because, as we all know, fat people have the superhuman power of sniffing out food through walls. But at least this joke leads to some plot development. They find a dead body in the freezer, but you can see him blink, so don't worry, he's not actually dead. They find a secret route through the fireplace, but they're such awful friends, man. They literally don't even realize that they've just left Chunk in the freezer. They hate him that much that they don't even bring him with them. They tell him to go and tell the police instead on his own.
I dropped my glasses. I can't see a thing.
Jinkies, I lost my glasses. I like this shot here where, as suspected, Chunk gets caught by the Fratellis and he gets threatened into spilling his guts. His fat guts. Meanwhile, the others progress further through the cave. They get increasingly more worried due to the fact that they find the body of Chester Copperpot. He was supposed to be the best treasure hunter around, so if he died to a booby trap, who's to say that they'll do any better than him? Chunk is still blathering and they actually just let him do this for some reason. He actually told them the truth right away, but they didn't even check the fireplace to see if what he said was true. They were just going to put his hand in a blender.
Put it in an ass blender.
The Goonies find a wishing well where they find Troy to be at the top.
How far you got with Andy?
All the way, buddy.
You guys are so immature. Why don't you grow up? You guys are so immature. Why don't you grow up? You guys are so immature. Why don't you grow up? You guys are so immature. Why don't you grow up?
They're talking about taking the correct course of action and getting sent back up the well one by one to escape to safety. But then Mikey gives an inspirational speech about how they have a chance to get the treasure and change the course of their future. He says Chester Copperpot never got this far, so why can't they make it? He talks about how if they don't do this, they will have to leave their hometown and start a new life. He ends with a memorable quote.
Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
Now, this is all very inspiring for Mikey, but realistically, I don't think a child is going to risk their life over losing their home. To a kid especially, it really doesn't mean as much as it would to as an adult, but they decide to continue their journey anyway.
Brain. So stupid, Mouse. Oh, yeah? Yes. Shut up.
Chunk gets put with Sloth, and now this creates a special bond between the two. They're both slow in the head, and they love their food. A perfect match. They find triple stones. It must be copper bone.
Triple stone. This must be copper bone.
Yeah, I just said that. Mikey fits the copper bones key into the stone, but in doing so gets his hand caught and sets off another booby trap. Okay, dude. A tiny set of toy teeth manages to grab onto a stone and hold on to his whole body weight. There's definitely some far-fetched stuff in the movie, but this takes the cake for sure.
Rocky Road?
Andy calls Thanos, but Mikey goes to see what she wants instead. In doing so, accidentally gets kissed by Andy. It's a little funny, it's a little weird.
Somebody's coming.
Somebody's coming! The Fratellis are now hot on their heels, but entirely useless of course, otherwise this movie would end because they would have been shot here in the face. The next part of the tunnel involves an organ made out of skeleton bones. The back of the map has music notes that have to be played correctly or else they will fall to their deaths.
I mean, we gotta play the bones to get out of here.
Play the bones to get out of here? Don't sound too bad. I mean, Andy took piano lessons when she was very young, so she's their best hope. A lot of pressure is now being put on her though, as the Fratellis are right behind them. Thankfully though, Data has another invention to buy us some time.
Aim sharp, or if it's to be flat. If you get the wrong note, we'll all be flat.
She manages to play the correct notes and they finally find One-Eyed Willie's boat. So they literally didn't even need to play that last note. If there's clearly enough room to scoot around the edge, then why couldn't they just do that? I mean, the drawbridge is clearly open enough for them to just climb up it. Anyway, Mikey finds the one and only One-Eyed Willie. He has a little heart-to-heart moment with his skeleton telling him that he finally found his treasure. Hey guys, I know Mikey's trying to have a moment here, but can we just remember that we're being chased by fucking murderers? There's enough treasure to make them all rich, but the Fratellis of course get to them and they make them walk the plank.
Oh my God.
In doing so, they get interrupted by who else? Bevo.
Chip Shop Tuesday.
Sloth has had enough of being manipulated. He's reminded of him being dropped as a baby, so he goes sicko mode.
Made this here with all the ice on in the booth at the gatehouse.
The Fratelli set off yet another booby trap whilst taking some treasure. The Goonies use dynamite to escape, leaving the treasure that they came all this way to get, but they decide it's best to leave whilst the cave is seemingly falling apart. I mean, you were willing to likely die this whole time, but now all of a sudden you're just desperate to survive. Sloth sacrifices himself to let the Goonies escape.
Well, I'll be damned. It's them goobers.
Oh, I'm a goofy goober, yeah. The goobers reunite with their families and Mikey's asthma is just magically cured. Sloth actually ends up getting out with the other Fratellis and creates an absolutely classic meme.
You're gonna live with me now.
The developers decide that this is the perfect time to tell Mr. Walsh to sign the foreclosure documents, not even giving them 5 minutes to reunite with their lost children. Turns out Mikey's marble bag was filled with gems and the Fratellis forgot to check it, so the dad rips up the documents without even knowing what the gems are worth. Yeah, okay. Littering on the beach is really cool. So then the boat just sails out of the cave on its own. You know full well the police would just get straight out on some boats to catch up with it to find that treasure. Anyway, that's the end of the movie, but let's talk about that treasure. I suggest watching this video here, as it explains quite well if these gems would have actually saved any of the houses in the town. Even if the gems were magically worth enough to save a few houses, let alone at 50 plus, they wouldn't even really be theirs because they were originally stolen by Willie from the British King. In the USA, treasure findings often become property of the state where they were found. There is the finders keepers or salvage rights rule, but generally treasure hunters must report their finds and they might get a finder's fee but not full ownership. Although they didn't actually take all of the treasure, so I'm just guessing this is going to just end as a happily ever after and let's just forget the reality. They can pay off their houses with the found treasure and then presumably the rest would just be sorted out legally between the state of Oregon, where the movie is based, and the British government. How boring, eh? I do recommend watching this video as it gives a general conclusion as to whether or not the handful of gems could have really saved the whole town. It seems like they could have maybe saved just each of the Goonies homes, but not the whole 50 home neighborhood. Womp womp. I would love if a movie was able to be released today that had this same general vibe and story of a bunch of kids solving a mystery together. We don't really get that anymore because for some reason modern directors seem to be so out of touch with how kids talk. They always have to include one of the kids live streaming on Twitch or talking about their favorite TikTok dances. It's just lazy. So this movie gets 4.5 stars from me. Let's put it in our tier list of every movie I've reviewed on this channel. Okay, so it goes 4.5 stars. Is it better than Barbarian? I do believe so. So we will put it just above Barbarian there. Be sure to check out my letterbox where you can see movies that I've been watching recently if you're really interested in that. Also in the description is my Ko-fi link where you can go and donate to the channel if that's something that you also really wish to do. Anything is obviously appreciated, but I'm really not expecting anything. Subscribing would be amazing, and thank you to everyone that's already subscribed. And of course, thank you for just watching my videos in the first place, as it means a great deal to me. And on that note, we conclude the movie and the video. Be a Goonie, not a Gooner. Or a Goober.
Them goobers.